Good morning, gentlemen. Nice talking to you. And I've got some very sensational information to discuss with you. Yesterday night, I had a call from one of my friends in Chicago, and he told me, there have been a lot of big developments in America. So I asked him what's happened. He said an arrest warrant has been issued for the famous Indian industrialist Adani, and a lot of other information. I'm a little surprised. I said, well, how come America can issue a stress warrant against an Indian national, and what are the crimes he has done? So I went through the various informations. I looked at the BBC, I looked at various other channels, including P Gurus, and then I was able to get a comprehensive report or information which I could summarize and I could give you my opinion about it. Gentlemen, ये इतना simple case नहीं, it's not a simple case. The first thing, let me tell you that some time back I made a video where I had said that the Americans had removed Imran Khan. They had helped remove Begum Hasina from Bangladesh, Imran Khan from Pakistan, and they are very hell-bent on removing Narendra Modi as the Prime Minister of India. That was before the 24 elections, when the BJP was touting that they'll get 400 plus seats. They ended up with 240. And people asked me, how did this happen? This happened because there was a deep state involved in America which was very keen to see that Mr. Modi doesn't see the light of the day as the Prime Minister again. Unfortunately for them, Modi survived, but the scheme to overthrow Modi continues. Now, generally, there are people in India, we've been the land of traitors. That's one thing I will say. Right from the 10th century, when Prithviraj Chauhan was betrayed by his own kinsman, that is Jaichand, who went and joined Muhammad Ghori in the battle against him. And ultimately, of course, Jaichand himself was butchered to death. Then we have other people in India, like the famous Gaddari Hind, Mir Jafar, who overnight went and joined the army of Robert Clive in the famous Battle of Plassey that made the British the masters of India. So we have no dearth of traitors. And even during the days of the Raj, the Indian Maharajas, the kings and the Nawabs, they were all part of the fifth column which was supporting the British Raj all the time. One of the biggest supporters, of course, was the Maharaja Patiala and the Nizam of Hyderabad. And there were so many others all over, Chote-mote Nawabs, all of them were part of it. So India has got no dearth of men who would like to betray the country. And before I continue, I'd like to draw one attention to the Congress Party. When they lost the election in 2014, immediately after that, Mani Shankar Iyer, the Congress leader, went to Karachi. And there he made a plea with the Pakistan leadership, please help us to overthrow Modi. So you can imagine the type of thinking which the Congress Party has got. And we have been watching and observing the movements of Rahul Gandhi in London, in England and America, and even his last visit to America, where he has been mouthing anti-India slogans all the time. And he's been hell-bent against Modi. I don't know what's his reason, an anathema, because he's got a feeling that, like Shah Jahan, I should be allowed to rule the country. He doesn't have the mandate, needs the majority. But all the same, he has the wish. Well, everybody can have a wish. But if wishes were horses, then beggars would ride. I think Rahul should remember this. So this deep state in India was involved, and they were looking for ways and means in which they could get back to Modi so that he could be that he cuts his sorry figure. Now, ye fact part, this is an actual fact what is happening. And the Americans, of course, as I told you, were very keen to cut India down to size, rather Modi to size, because they wanted India as an ally of the Americans. They didn't like the Indian friendship with Russia, And they don't like the detent which we have had with China, where we are declassified the border, rather demilitarized the border. They don't like it. And they were thinking that they needed someone like Sardar Manmohan Singh, just three bags full, that sort of a man, somebody who beckons them, who doesn't want to make weapons himself, keeps on importing American weapons, which the Congress did for 70 years, didn't make a nut in India. And Rahul Gandhi is the right man for it. Look at the shallowness of this man. He went to America in his last meeting, in one of his so-called Mohabbat Ki Dukan meeting, the people mostly attending were the Sikhs and the Muslims. And he made that obnoxious statement that Sikhs in India are scared to go to a Gurdwara if they are wearing a turban or a kara. I mean, it's absolutely, I would say, imbecile. It's a very imbecile statement. But then, you can't take away the genes from your blood. So, gentlemen, all this is adding up to one fact, that America was greatly disrupted. They're looking for a way, and they tried to finish the Indian economy, which is growing at about 6 to 7%. First of all, they had the Hindenburg papers coming in. Now, the Hindenburg papers, came in. They said a lot of insider trading, this thing, that thing, and ultimately there was an inquiry by SEBI. Nothing came out of it, and the Hindenburg papers died away. But at that time, if you remember, the stock market had crashed, and Adani's shares had reached the nadir. They went down, absolutely. However, Adani recovered, came back, but it was smarting, and they were looking for ways and means out. And the best ways they could get it was to either manufacture evidence or manipulate the evidence which is there so they could catch Adani. And by means of catching Adani, they thought they'll be catching Modi, and that is what Rahul Gandhi had been screaming from the treetops. So he said that once Adani is arrested, Modi will also be arrested. Well, nice logic he has got. Now, the point which I am making here is that the Americans carried out a thorough investigation. I'll say that the FBI did it. And they've been keeping Adani under surveillance for the last 4 years. Now, the Americans do that for all top businessmen, and they were doing it for India because the idea was to catch India somewhere on the wrong foot. So, they then made out an indictment. An indictment has been filed in the New York court against Adani, and an arrest warrant issued against him. It's not only against him, it is against his son and another 5 or 6 top executives of Adani Green, which is an American company, but started by Adani. I think Adani did a great mistake in going and tapping the funds from America, and he should have waited till Trump comes into power. And he did another great mistake. That moment when Trump won the election, he announced that he was going to make a massive investment in America, which will generate thousands of jobs. Now, these things were really very galling to the Democratic Party and the administration in power. And there are some hawks, as I told you, in the State Department who are pro-Pakistan, and they were looking for ways and means in which they could finish off India. And so Adani's were the best bet to do it. So they have trumped up 5 charges against Adani. Perhaps these charges would not have been there in case Adani had not registered his company on the American stock. And it's a traded company, that is Adani Green. And that was the mistake I think Adani did. He should have just kept himself to India and the world, And now the Americans have come out with 2 major charges. One is laundering of money. They say that money which was being collected from investors in America was being used to carry out bribes with the Indian government. Now it's not a far-fetched thing. I won't comment much on it. And they say it's about $255 million of bribe money was paid to the various states. Now they have in that indictment mentioned 4 states also, basically Rajasthan and Orissa, Bihar, Telangana, Andhra and Tamil Nadu. Now, these states are all non-BJP states. They're ruled by the Congress or the allies. So that is the first flaw in the argument, that Modi is responsible, because the contracts by Adani Green were with these electric boards, because this company is to generate electricity and they wanted to sell it to the solar payloads which they were making into these countries, these states. And that's how the things really got out of hand. Well, I don't know whether they paid money or didn't pay money, but part of it, I'm sure, could have been paid. There's nothing wrong with it. But it was a hush-hush deal, that's what they say. But there's no proof for it. And in any case, the states involved are the Congress-ruled states. And Rahul Gandhi conveniently has forgotten that. So the American plan was very clean, very clear. They wanted to finish off Adani. And once they finish off Adani, they could finish the Indian economy. And ultimately, the stigma would be there, and then the Modi would lose the election. And he would be either voted out of power, maybe 70 or 80 MPs would turn turtle, put on different coats, and Rahul Gandhi perhaps was thinking, or rather he's dreaming, And I think he hasn't read Harold Robbins' famous novel, Dreams Die First. So I think you better read it, because his dreams are going to die first. And he had probably thought that so many people would jump on the bandwagon, leave Mr. Modi in the lurch, and a coalition government could be formed with Rahul Gandhi at the head of the government. That's the American plan. I don't say it's a foolproof plan or something which I have some inside knowledge about it. No, not at all. This is my assessment, and I stand by it. American State Department, of course, has come out with a statement now which they say that, well, our relationship with India remains unchanged. But what do you expect America to say? They've done something so bad already. They've cooked up a case against one gentleman called Nikhil Gupta, whom they have arrested, and they brought him to New York to face trial for an attempt to murder Gurpatwant Singh Pannu. That rat, that Khalistani rat. And why the hell would the Indians want to kill a rat, You don't want to kill such a man. He's got no need, no use. But the Americans want to put pressure in India, and then they're doing pressure to Canada, creating the Khalistan movement. And then other day I saw a video of New Zealand of 6 lining up and voting for Khalistan, a referendum. I mean, it was so very silly. And there were some New Zealanders who were there with loudspeakers and shouting, "What the hell are you doing here? Why don't you go home? Why are you creating a problem here? Why don't you go and do the agitation there in India?" They can't come to India and do any such agitation, because what will happen is that all these people will be thrashed by the local Sikhs, and so they won't like to do it. I'm a Sikh also. I don't support any Khalistani nonsense, And anyway, what I'm coming down to the point is that America, Canada, and these countries were trying to pressurize Modi one way or the other. What is the Khalistan movement? And now we have come to this, what is called the Adani case. Now, Adani is the biggest industrialist in Asia. He's the richest man, and I think he did a mistake by making the announcement that he's going to invest a lot of money once Trump comes to power. And this was not right, so they wanted to act everything before 20th of January, before Trump can come. So he's presented with a fait accompli. That's what Biden has done even in Ukraine. He's advised Ukraine to bomb the Russians with rockets, and in the hinterland of Russia, which they've carried out an attack yesterday, and so that the pot keeps boiling. And Zelensky, of course, has been shouting like a tiger. He's not one, he's actually a jackal. That's all I can think of. The nearest equivalent to him as an animal. And that result is that the configuration has expanded. And that is what they wanted. They wanted to present Trump with a fait accompli. So it's a deep game going on. And the deep game, as I told you, is that, well, try to finish off Trump, and finish off India, or create a situation so bad for Trump that he won't be able to do anything. What the hell he'll be able to do? He won't be able to control the Ukraine war. He won't be able to control the fallout in India with the Adani case, because the Adani allegations are serious, I'll say that much. And when a country sends out an arrest warrant, it's serious still. The question is, what is going to happen now? And the ball is in Narendra Modi's court. I think Modi by now must have realized one thing which I had made a video earlier, that he has been roaring a lot, but not biting. I couldn't understand why all this time he couldn't take any action against the Jijaji, the brother-in-law of Rahul Gandhi, and why he couldn't fast-track the case of the National Herald corruption against Rahul Gandhi and his mother. Why not? Well, if he's not guilty, say so. And if he's guilty, give him 10 years jail so that he sits and relaxes in Tihar jail. He's already under bail. The Supreme Court, as usual, playing double game. For an offence, he was given 3 years imprisonment, and his case has not been heard by the Supreme Court. They've stayed the sentence, given him bail. So technically, he can be arrested any time and put in jail back. I think he shouldn't forget that. And when he's talking that Adani should be arrested and sent to jail, I think he should apply this law to himself. Why shouldn't he be arrested and sent to jail? Because what has happened is an indictment. Let's be very clear, gentlemen. It's just an indictment. The case has to be heard. And Adani will get his chance to defend himself. And only after that the punishment is to be meted out. And then there is also the Court of Appeals. They are also there. And the question then arises, Adani, can he be tried and prosecuted in America? Well, there are two opinions about it. First of all, his company is registered in the American exchange. That is Adani Green. I think that is something which he should have avoided. But then nobody can look into the future and the crystal ball and see what's going to happen. So that was a mistake. And second thing is, he should have been more proactive. Kept a lifeline to the American people who matter. Because what's happened now, as you can clearly see, is that he has little support in the American establishment at the moment, the government of Joe Biden. And though Biden himself may be favorably inclined or no, I don't know, probably he's just smarting, feeling very hurt that he hasn't been given the nomination. So his actions in Ukraine and now this Adani case is based to undermine the relationship of India with America and show Modi in a bad light. And he's got a man who's supporting them, and that's Rahul Gandhi, and he's already been talking a lot of BS, that's all I'll say. And he's been doing that for a long time. He's deadly allergic to Narendra Modi, and I don't know what's the reason behind it. And I'm afraid India is at the crossroads now. Already the fallout is there. The stock exchange is collapsed. It's gone down. Adani's shares have hitting the bottom. The circuit breakers are out. And Kenya has cancelled the license or the agreements with Adani. And Sri Lanka said we're going to examine them. So, there is a fallout. And who's the loser? The loser is India. And tomorrow there'll be a lot of people who will be saying, well, India is a country, which is totally bankrupt and doing all these jiggly-boogly things, insider dealings, black money, laundering, bribes. So don't invest in India. Well, that could affect India. Certainly it will. And that is what the American plan is. And India has to counter the American plan. And one should be very clear that America believes in its own hegemony in the world. And I read. Well, gentlemen, I don't know what to say about it. But the fact remains that America has the world by the horns, and they want to do what they feel like to perpetuate the American hegemony. And this is one scheme of the Americans against Adani. Now, Adani's charges, if you look at it, it's going to take some time to prove them, because there is so much ifs and buts. They're very exhaustive charge sheet which they made. That is, a lot of study has been done into it. Certainly, I'll agree. But the question is how far it is true. And question of giving bribes of about $250 million or something in India, I don't think that sort of money can be given to anybody. And maybe some bribes are given, but maybe not this level. But this is something called lobbying, which is accepted in America also. Once the American companies and the Italian and the other companies come to India to sell their goods, they also have this sort of arrangement and pay some money to the middlemen. That is how the air chief, uh, Tyagi, is facing a criminal charge now for taking hush money from the Americans. And the Congress was in power. I think he took it from the Italians, and 70 lakhs or something like that. And he's facing a criminal charge. So this is part of it, but it's not to condone it. And we can't condone such things at all. But we have to see the things in the proper light. The aim is to hit Adani below the belt, try to finish him off, and in the meanwhile, if Adani goes under, and then get after Modi and see that he can be removed from power. And once that happens, they're pretty confident that they'll be able to have a man, someone like the Pakistan Prime Minister who has replaced Imran Khan. And like in Bangladesh, we have Dr. Yunus replacing Begum Hasina. Maybe someone like that who can say, yes, sir, 3 bags full to the Americans. And we'll have to wait and see what happens. I'm really surprised. But at the same time, it is something which I was expecting all the time. That things are not going to be all that easy as far as India is concerned now. India has got to be on its foot. You've got to convince the world that nothing serious has happened. But in case there has been some hush money given or whatever it may be, because giving a bribe in any case, whether in India or in America, is a crime, and then we must proceed against Adani. There's no reason not to proceed against him. But the way the Americans have gone about it is not the correct way. And I think they should have shared the evidence first with the Indian government and told them to carry out an inquiry and then gone ahead, and that would have been if India was considered as a friend. But since they don't consider India as a friend, more so as a rival in time to come and keep India down, so the Americans chose this method. Well, gentlemen, it's a very interesting state of affairs. Narendra Modi has a lot of homework to do now. I know he's going to succeed. I hope he succeeds. Let's see. We'll wait and see. In the meanwhile, I'll close now and say goodbye to you all. And if you like my video, please share it with your friends and come back for more. I'll say goodbye and God bless. Jai Hind.